We are malleable beings. We're taught that we come into the world with a code that is set in stone, and you get what you get. When I go to the doctor's office, if I go once a year, I go for a physical, and I fill out this form, and they ask the same question: have either of your parents ever had any of these? And then they give you this list. Well, I have to say yes to all of them because my father had every single one, and some that aren't even listed on there. But I also have to say I attribute to lifestyle. It has nothing to do with my life now unless I choose to live the life that my father lived. If I choose to live the life that my father lived, then it's very probable that I would have those same experiences. But they link that the thinking is that DNA is inherited from one generation to the next, and it's locked in stone. Epigenetics is changing all of that. Our environment, our external environment, our emotional environment, our psychological environment, our nutritional environment says that all of those things are subject to change. So we're not locked in. We are not defined by our past unless we choose to be defined by our past. We're not defined by the genetics that our parents have given us unless we choose to be defined by those genetics. It's not right, wrong, good, or bad. It's just that this is what we're finding out about ourselves. So I'm going to leave this. Did everybody get a photograph that wanted a photograph of that? Some of you were asking, sending little notes back to us. This is a high-end technology that is available from the Institute of Heart Math. If you go to their website, www.heartmath.org, that technology is available, but there are other forms. There's an app that you can use on a mobile phone. We purchase a sensor. There's another app for an iPad. They are not as detailed. They are not as sophisticated. They don't give you as much information, but they will definitely tell you when you're in coherence and when you're not, if you're interested in those kinds of things. So I wanted you to know that those are available. We've just done this. I'm going to go to our next discovery. I want to talk about brain states. This is so interesting to me because when I was in school, and most of you, when you were in school, we were taught that there are essentially 4 brain states. And scientists, medical doctors that I talked to said, this is it. There can't be any more. Because the human brain, the neurons, the circuitry in the human brain cannot possibly sustain higher frequencies than what we already know about right now. So let me show you. I was in school. Most of you, when you were in school, and if you got kids in school now, they're pretty much still teaching this. The first is the delta brain state. I know you're familiar with it. Look at what a long, slow wave that is. This is a really deep, deep sleep. It's a healing sleep. It's what I call black hole sleep. You ever have a sleep and you wake up and you don't even know that you've been asleep? You have no dreams that you remember. It's just like, I guess I was asleep because I woke up. So, and I always am happy when I wake up. I say, wow, I woke up again. This is so awesome. So that is what the delta waves look like, all right? The theta waves, how many in here are involved in theta healing at all? Some of you. You're going to love where we go with this. This is the theta wave. It's still a long, slow wave, but it's not quite as slow. It's got a little bit faster, information happening here. This is where we typically are in meditation, when we go into deep meditation. Or the healing state. This is the body's healing state. Now, I'm going to call your attention. I want you to know, I said long, slow waves. Look at the frequencies. 0.1 hertz to 3 hertz is the delta wave. 0.1 hertz to 3 hertz. 4 to 7 hertz, 7 cycles per second, is the theta wave, all right? The alpha wave, a little bit faster. You can see this is a faster wave. This is when you're relaxed, in a very creative state. As a musician, when I'm writing a song or I'm trying to learn someone else's song, do a cover, or if I am writing a book and developing information to go for the book, look at this. This goes from 8 to 15 hertz, or 15 cycles per second. And then beta consciousness, this is hopefully where you are right now. I think most of you are in beta. Some of you might be in alpha right now. I don't know, deeply relaxed. But this is when you're alert, you're concentrating, 16 to 30 cycles per second. It's a lot faster wave. Scientists for years, they said, this is it. They said there can't be any more. The human brain cannot sustain anything beyond that. Then they began working with the Tibetan meditators. And the Tibetans said, well, actually, if we do a certain kind of meditation, we can exceed that. And the researchers said, show us. So what happened was they brought them into the laboratory. They started in the monasteries when they were in Tibet. And they actually began with the young people. The young people are trained from a very early age to attain these higher brain states. And it's easier for them. They've never been conditioned out of it. All right? So the young people, I love this image. These are Tibetan monks in the monastery in Tibet, and look at the laptops right in front of them. They're hooked up to EEG monitors, and they're getting readings that the medical doctors say, you can't do that. And the monks said, okay. But we are. So they said, well, we have to bring you into the laboratory in the US and into Western Europe. So they began bringing them so they could put them into devices like this. I love this. And the monks, they said, we need you to put on a robe so we can do an MRI. And the monk says, I'm already wearing a robe. I don't need another robe. But they love to laugh. The monks, they love to giggle and they love to laugh. And I think it's important to achieve these higher brain states. So they said, when we begin to do certain kinds of meditation, and I'm going to tell you what they are. You've actually already embarked upon this journey already. They said, we can exceed 30 hertz. We can exceed 30 cycles per second. So the beta brain state was no longer the top. They said, we can take this up to another brain state between 30 and 80 cycles per second. The scientist says, wow, we've never seen that. We didn't know that was possible. We're going to stay with the Greek terminology, and we have to have a name for the new brain state. It's called gamma. So the gamma brain state, 30 to 80 hertz. But that's it. The human brain is topped out. We cannot possibly embrace. It cannot sustain. The human brain cannot sustain anything higher than 80 cycles per second. And the Tibetan said, well, actually, if we do a little bit different kind of meditation, we can exceed that. And the researcher said, well, show me. So they went into a deeper form of meditation, and they were able to take that 80 hertz all the way up to what now is called hypergamma. It's still the same brain wave, but from 80 hertz all the way up to 100 cycles per second, 100 hertz. And the scientists were pretty blown away, and they said, okay, maybe we were wrong about this. I'm just paraphrasing a scientist. Maybe we were wrong, but this is it. This has to be it. The human brain, the neurons electrically cannot sustain anything beyond 100 cycles per second. It's just not possible. And the Tibetan said, well, if we begin to do a little bit different kind of meditation. Now, they're not using any external technology. It's all happening in here, and that is why I'm so passionate about sharing it with you. We are wired for these extraordinary potentials. You can use gadgets if you want to get you there, but you don't need them. And this is where we find our mastery. The Tibetan said, if we do a different kind of meditation, we can exceed 100 hertz. And the scientist said, there's no way. How far do you think you can go? Well, I'm just going to tell you, they doubled it. They doubled it. And there now is a brain state above hypergamma. They had to stay with the naming convention from the Greek letters. It is called the lambda brain state. The lambda brain state begins at 100 hertz and tops out right now at 200 cycles per second. 200 hertz. They are extremely conscious when they are in this state. And they are very awake. But if you walked in to someone who is meditating at 200 cycles per second, you wouldn't know that. You might think they're taking a nap because they are so awake within, but it's not showing externally. Now, I personally believe this is not the end yet, because our neurons are designed, the way they interact with the field around us, they are designed to sustain much, much more than this. And this is, we're only beginning to understand. This is part of your humanness, but if we compromise our brain states and begin implanting chips and allowing the chips to do what we are designed to do, we're going to lose these capabilities. The first generation, a few people try it and you say, okay, that's cool, that's fun. Pretty soon that becomes the way to do it. And pretty soon everyone is doing it through a chip and no one remembers how to access this powerful facet of humanness. And then we begin to atrophy those parts of our bodies that we're not using. Does that make sense to you if I say it? So I'm very passionate about this. The humans must prevail. Our humanness is so precious. At least know what it is before we allow it to be compromised, and we are not at that point right now. Let me go one step further. So the scientist said, well, this must be it. We now have a new map of the brain states, right? And the Tibetan said, well, actually, there is another brain state in a place where you typically don't look. You haven't looked yet. It's on the other end of the spectrum. And they said, well, what do you mean? I mean, the other end of the spectrum, it begins at less than 1 cycle per second. It begins at 0.1. How can you get less than 0.1? Tibetan said, we'll show you. And they went into a meditation and a brain state, and their brain state is 0 cycles per second. To an outside observer, there is no discernible breath. There is no discernible heartbeat. There is no discernible pulse, and they are very, very much alive and very conscious. It is called the epsilon brain state, and it is from 0 to 0.1 hertz. Now, here's why I'm sharing this with you, because it's really interesting. What they discovered, what the scientists found, is that the high end of the lambda brain state and the low end of the epsilon, they both lead to the same state of consciousness. Isn't that interesting? They both take you to the same state. One of them, you're in a very awake and an aware state. The other one, you're more in a dreamlike state. But look at this. They both go to exactly the same place. Different brain states, same state of consciousness. And what this suggests is that we have the ability to tune our brain. When we are creating these different tunings in here, it's allowing us to access different bodies of information out there, different fields, different places within the field, and as other forms of life do. And this is how we communicate with other forms of life. Horse whisperers, dog whisperers, cat whisperers, plant whisperers. What they're doing, they are empathing. We'll talk about empathing after lunch. They're empathing with the other beings in their immediate environment, and they're tuning their consciousness to those other beings. And this is allowing them to communicate in a very meaningful way. There are different kinds of channeling, and some do it better than others. So the act of channeling, you could consider the act of channeling the act of tuning your body to a field of information that exists in the field that connects all things, that is now acknowledged by modern science. The act of tuning the body to that place. The reason I'm hesitating is because when conscious full body channels have been measured, what happened is that they were active in all of these brain states simultaneously. At the same time, they were awake and asleep. At the same time, they were in epsilon, they were in lambda. All of these were active at the same time. That is a fully realized, fully potentialized human being.